Right. Well, this is Shimmery Yo-Yo with Exercise.com, and we are continuing our series of interviews with fitness experts. And today we have Dustin Hassard, who is the head coach at Modern Athletics. Thank you for agreeing to interview with us, Dustin.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So let's just jump into some of your background. What sports did you play growing up, and what sports do you participate now?
So growing up was mostly like baseball, a little bit of football, some martial arts. Being like 6'2", from like age 10 on or younger, everyone of course thought I was a basketball player, but that is by far my worst sport and the one sport that I just don't seem to get any better at. Yeah, I kept it mostly just baseball. Soccer was a big part of my growing up. Swimming, so kind of dabbled in a lot of things. Never really stuck with any one thing though.
Okay. That's good. Get a little variety. Now, do you still participate in any sports actively today?
Yeah, more so now. That's actually one of my big philosophies is, it's just kind of a shame that people don't play sports after high school. And that's if they ever played at all. So I try to encourage people to participate or start something that they maybe have always wanted to try or used to play. There's just hundreds of options out there in terms of activities and sports, if you want to call it that people can get involved in. So, I'm still dabbling in a lot of the same things I just talked about. Weightlifting, I guess, would be my main sport now, which works well for me. But I got back into, I've always wanted to skateboard since I was a kid, and that was just something that just didn't seem to happen, and it was just too difficult, right? So I quit very early. But that's moving along now nicely. So going out, like doing a lot more like water sports. Paddleboarding is a big one. Anything that can get me in the water is going to be great. So swimming and paddleboarding are key there.
That's fun.
Sprinting is something I reconnecting with. So yeah, want to explore. There's so many things you can do out there.
Yeah, my oldest son, he's 6 years old, and he loves to skateboard. I was never any good at it, so it's funny. He's learning and teaching himself little different tricks, and I'm like, I'm sorry, bud, I can't help you there.
That's what you gotta do. I went to just a parking lot where it was quiet and no one could see me because I know I was going to fall a lot and just look silly. It's funny because my whole life I wanted to do it, but never did it. And like within an hour, I was actually doing it. And I think there's something to skateboarding, just since we're talking about it. I noticed that there's no greater single leg training that I've experienced than skateboarding. Like my ankle stability, my knee stability, my hip stability, it all has to be there. And so I've actually been incorporating skateboarding into my warm up. So I'll actually skateboard a lap or two on each leg, and then I'll do my sprints just to see if there's something to it. But it's pretty amazing. But it took an hour to learn a new skill. I'm not great at it, but it was enough where I felt comfortable enough that it could be called skateboarding. And yet to refrain from doing that my entire life just because of that one little obstacle was kind of crazy. So getting over that hump was key.
Well, I'm sure it probably helps with your balance as well.
Oh yeah. It's not an option. That's the thing. You have to have it.
Exactly.
So you're forced to get it there.
So yeah, you mentioned already that you have a martial arts background. How do you utilize that training in some of the coaching that you do with your clients?
I don't. There's like definitely some things that I pull from all practices. So, you'll see elements of yoga, gymnastics, all types of sports pulled into integrated into people's workouts these days. And I don't think necessarily any of those practices own that one movement, but martial arts has a variety of things and a variety of martial arts out there where you could pull from. So I haven't really made that connection yet.
Okay.
I'm not qualified to really coach martial arts yet. It's something that I dabbled in, something I actually want to get back into. I've kind of fallen off from that, and it's on the top of my list to start back up actually. But yeah, you'll see some commonalities there for sure.
Yeah. Now you were also in the military, so thank you for your service. How, if at all, does that experience influence how you train today? Maybe the mentality or some structure wise?
It's there. I feel like training actually better prepared me for the military. So, things that I think would have been really helpful. I mean, they complement each other well. So, training gave me the disciplines and the things I needed to have. So when I went into the military, it was a lot easier to do. Where it could have worked in the reverse as well. Like the military would have carried over into the disciplines required for fitness. So yeah, I think they go hand in hand. So I don't like to scream at people though. People always thought I was in the military before I was, and I'd never been like the type to scream at people or, I definitely talk about I bring more of the experiences that I have from the military and bring it into the lessons and trying to talk about that just so people have some perspective.
Yeah, give them context. That's good. Now, have you personally used a strength and conditioning coach or a personal trainer?
Absolutely. I don't remember who first said it to me, but they said, like, you're trying to sell people on the value of a personal trainer, but you don't have one yourself, then you're pretty much a hypocrite. And that sunk in pretty deep. I was like, oh yeah. And as like Dan John, I believe, is famous for saying, if you coach yourself, your client's an idiot. And it seems true. You just can't coach yourself no matter what you know. The same thing goes for like programs. Like I have a program when I go into the gym. If I'm on the spot, it doesn't matter how quickly I can come up with a program. If I'm in the gym scratching my head for even a second, I'm wasting my time. And so not being prepared for a workout, either via a program or having someone who's there to look out for my best interest, you're just not going to have the same caliber of a workout or results. So it's a must.
That's good. Now you're very active. What are some non-athletic activities that you do for fun?
Reading.
Reading. Okay, that's good.
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting because I shied from reading my entire life, and I just never understood why are people so into books. I don't get it. And as a result of training, I mean, I'll put it this way: fitness has basically been the gateway to everything I've done in my life. So it has bled over into every aspect of my life. Every aspect of my life has improved as a result of fitness, because I wasn't someone who just started this career, and I wasn't someone who was always active. It wasn't until like my early 30s to like mid 30s that I started to lock it in a little bit more, dialed in. And that's when I became a trainer, was in my early 30s. So I struggle with fitness the same as many other people did and still do. And so having that experience to draw from that perspective allows me to connect a little bit more with my clients. But, I wasn't applying myself in any aspect of my life. I was just having fun and not really pushing the envelope. I mean, looking back, I'm like, wow, that person was just really lazy and not motivated in life at all. A lot of bad practice, a lot of bad habits. So, picking up things like reading now, which is a crazy thing to think that I never did. So, I mean, that's pretty much the main source of my fun now, and learning. This field requires you to constantly learn. So every single day I'm doing something to learn. I'm taking workshops, I'm reading books, not just related to training, but outside of training as well, looking at things that I maybe are completely odd to me or I'm not in agreement with. So trying to expand my knowledge in every way possible. So yeah, education is what I do for fun. That's not active, but it certainly is a workout still.
No, that's good. You use fitness as like I said, as a gateway to self-improvement. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, if you could describe your training philosophy and methodology in one word, what would it be?
I've thought about that. It changes a lot, actually. I think about this daily. So resilience has been the word I've been stuck on lately.
That's a great word.
Resilience, just we're making the body more resilient. Strength was the word. I'm all about strength training, I call myself a strength coach above all else. But I speak of strength as like mental and physical strength as well. And really what we're doing is making ourselves more resilient. Like we're making our body more able to withstand injuries. We're challenging ourselves in ways that makes us able to tackle other demands in life, other physical and mental obstacles as well, and just being more resilient about handling it. Where things that were once difficult for us are no longer difficult because we built up that resilience. We're able to take a little bit more punishment.
Right. That's a good explanation. So you also have a background in nutrition, and you offer nutrition coaching as one of your core services. So how important is nutrition to physical fitness?
It is an absolute necessity. I mean, it really is. You've heard the whole 80-20 rule. Fitness is 80% exercise, or 80% nutrition, 20% exercise. It seems to hold true. And the way I translate it to people when they hear that quote is, if you're eating 3 meals a day as the standard, that's 21 meals a week. Let's say you work out 4 times a week. The score is now 21-4. So even if you have 4 of the most amazing workouts, you still have 21 meals that are going to either contribute or take away from those workouts. So it is absolutely a necessity. And I think everyone knows that too, but we tend to ignore it. I ignored it significantly because no matter what I did, I just looked the same. Same physique for the most part. I mean, you could probably nitpick here and there, but I was just like the slender guy, and that's just the way it was no matter what I ate, whether I was eating clean or just eating complete garbage. And I was kind of going through this period of life where I was like, found myself low energy, just unmotivated to do anything, depressed. I didn't even know why I was depressed. I had no reason to be. My life was solid. So it was unexplainable. I was like, oh, maybe there's just some chemical imbalance with me. Or I was trying to find like, oh, there must be some, maybe I was born this way or whatever. Well, through some good influence with surrounding myself with the fitness professionals I knew, I started to clean up my diet, and like literally within a week, all those negative symptoms went away. And so I was like, well, gosh, I knew nutrition was important, but I didn't think about these other things that was affecting. So my sleep got better. My workouts felt better. I was going into these workouts normally that I thought were just like, wow, this always feels awful. Now I had energy to push myself harder and therefore get better results. My physique started to change. Just the glow of my body and started to change, like everything. So mentally and physically, it was transformational. So it wasn't just about how I looked, and that's not necessarily how it is. That does have an impact for sure, but it was really just about how I was feeling overall.
Oh, that's good information. Now, staying on that track, what would you say is a good pre-workout snack, and what's a good post-workout snack or meal?
Yeah, it varies from person to person, it seems. So I'll tell you this: nutrition is my weak spot. Like, no matter who you are, and it seems no matter what your goal is, nutrition is the obstacle, myself included. So I'm not still at the level I want to be, and I'm doing my best to figure that out. So I do coach nutrition, but more on a basic level. I don't get too detailed with it. I try to find a way that is sustainable for people, allows them to more change their habits, incorporate maybe some options that are better than what they're currently doing, and then over time it gets better and better and better. So as far as nutrition goes, though, it's something I nitpick at with everybody else, but not spend a whole lot of time on unless they're hiring me specifically for that. But I don't get to the level that some other people might nutrition. I try to be very simple as possible.
Okay. Now you spoke on this a little bit as you talk about your journey, but I just want to give you an opportunity to discuss your opinions on how nutrition, exercise, and then physical and mental wellness are related. How do they complement each other?
Say that again.
You talked about in your opinion, how does your physical and mental wellness, how are they affected by nutrition and exercise?
Well, it's a cycle. So one affects the other, and first it starts with what's going on up here. If up here is not going well, then everything else falls apart too, right? You start to just if my thoughts are negative, then my attitude towards my training, towards my nutrition suffers as well, and that makes me less likely to want to improve those areas too. So it's absolute necessity. I mean, the three things I coach in terms of like that cycle, though, is I talk about people like exercise, nutrition, and sleep is a big one I speak of. And for me, and I think it's true for most people, if sleep is suffering, those other two areas are greatly reduced or greatly affected. So without sleep, I'm not going to really be able to give my best or get the most from my exercise or nutrition. Not just talking about making bad choices due to being sleep deprived or likely to miss something, but just the physiological effects too. So, in a perfect world, I would coach sleep first. If human nature was we would just do the things we're supposed to do, I would coach sleep first, then nutrition, then exercise. But the way it seems is just the way we respond is I coach exercise first because that's the gateway into people eating better. And then maybe after a long time, I've built up the trust and people can actually start to take my advice when it comes to actually focusing on sleep as a skill as well. And that really is the game changer as it was for me. When I locked in my sleep, it supercharged everything else I was doing right, nutrition and exercise. So you can't have one without the other, but some are gateways into others for sure.
No, that's a great answer. And I'll confess that's something that I haven't focused on enough, even in my personal life and even in my interviewing. I sometimes neglect the importance of sleep and how that affects the overall fitness and your overall physical and mental health too. So that's something I'm definitely going to incorporate more in my my interviews moving forward.
I power nap before this interview, so I'm feeling pretty charged up right now.
This is good. Now, how are speed, strength, and mobility related in your training? And is there any one which is more important to an athlete out of those three?
Yeah, so I consider everybody I train an athlete, whether they're actually playing competitive sports or if they're an adult who's working out for the first time in their life. I still consider them athletes, and each one is going to be at a different level. So, a speed, strength, and mobility. Mobility, I used to always used to think of just as like how much range of motion do you have, and how stable you are through that range of motion. And really, mobility is just the ability to move. So, everything we do is mobility, and is designed to help people move better at whatever capacity it is. Strength is relative as well. That's the thing I emphasize the most, though, is I want people to be strong physically and mentally. So there are ways to measure that. They're scientific, but as long as people are continuously improving and going from where they're currently at, and then the next time they work out, it's just a little bit better. They are getting stronger, and then we can keep building upon that. Speed is also relative. For some people, just jumping an inch off the ground is speed, and for other people, like we got to do full-on sprints, or Olympic lifting. It just depends person to person, but I think they're all important. I don't think any one of them should be excluded. Without mobility, of course, building strength or speed is just not going to happen at the level it could. So that is the criteria that is an absolute must before anything else. That's the foundation of everything there in my philosophy.
That's it. And now, how do you measure progress for your clients and then for yourself?
I'm just taking a guess, No, absolutely not. So everybody's on a program, and through those programs, everything is measured, right? What gets measured gets managed. So it doesn't matter what I think, but what I see on paper tells the true story. And a lot of times, actually, it's instinctual for my athletes. Like they know when they're getting stronger. They know when they feel better. So they can simply answer that question for themselves without me having to say anything. But if they don't have that intuition, or if maybe they're a little self-loathing or have doubts about it, the numbers on paper don't lie. So every single workout is tracked. I have stats for every single thing they've done from the first time we meet to every single workout. And when I see improvements or something that shows measurable progress there, whether it's more reps, more weights, a more advanced exercise progression, anything can be measured. So, and I use that for ensuring that they get progress. They don't have to wait weeks or months or years to find out if something's working or not. I know every single workout if something's improving or not, and if it isn't, I make changes. Right. So I love it because it's a lovely science. I don't have to actually leave it up to guessing.
No, that's good. You get that emphasis on data and record keeping, and it's able to, like you said, to show objective results to your clients. So that's pretty key. Good.
And I tell people, I get a little harsh sometimes, a little more blunt, but I like to give people those truths. I used to be a person who was closed-minded, very defensive. Anytime somebody had any kind of criticism for me, or at least what I viewed as criticism, I would just make excuses, dismiss it. So the thing about those numbers, though, is they tell the true story for sure. And I say, like, trainers that aren't utilizing programs or tracking those numbers, they're not a professional to me. So I try to educate the athletes as well. Like, make sure your trainer is whoever you're using from here on out, or even if that person is just you should be tracking this stuff, because you're not going to get lucky in fitness if you don't see measurable progress and you're just guessing what you're doing. It's a fine line sometimes, especially the more forward you get, and like, you do not get lucky in fitness. Things don't just magically happen. You have to be on top of it. So that's not what to do. But yeah, as professionals, every trainer should have. We can all debate as to what method's the best. We all can agree, like, our job is to not cause any harm to any member above all else. But if you're just giving them random workouts and not actually tracking that, you're doing them a disservice. And I think that's for what they pay per hour, any amount really, that you should be providing that for them.
No, that makes sense. And so what protocols or safeguards do you have in place that helps you to push your clients to their physical limits without burning them out or risking injury?
You just, really just by watching, if it looks like garbage, it is garbage. So making sure that quality is always there, and making sure that the standards set for them is always really high. They know they probably get tired of hearing me, not necessarily nitpick. I don't want to overwhelm them with information, but, making sure that they're aware of what they need to be doing to perform things safely and correctly. little by little too, small progressions, not big jumps. I try to relate like mistakes that I've made in my own training. A lot of people that make the common mistakes that are made among all types of people. And I try to get people to avoid that by highlighting like, okay, if we go too big too soon, there's this risk. One of my classic lines though, in terms of like progressing people is, if people want to go too big too soon, I'm just like, listen, if we increase your weight 5 pounds a month, that's 300 pounds in a year. That's like going to be a world record in some of these lifts. Like, we're not going to go that far. So don't underestimate the power of even just a pound. Improving a pound from every single workout. It's significant. It can be the difference between success and failure. So,
well, that makes sense. Now let's talk about specifically your business and how you're running it. How do you juggle your time between being a trainer and strength coach and an entrepreneur?
Yeah, time is it. That is the challenge right there for sure. Managing that, and gotta keep it pretty tight. So, always trying to work that out, trying to improve the processes for sure. You got to have systems in place, because if you're spending a lot of time doing the same things, you don't need to reinvent the wheel every single time. But if you're spending time doing certain things, you should have a system in place where every time you do it, you follow that same order. It allows you to be able to replicate the process too when you have success too, rather than just like things happening magically at random. So, keeping a pretty much a recurring schedule with a little bit of flexibility there. Nothing ever goes as planned, but doing your best to prepare for all that stuff and having contingencies in place. And I talk about in the military too, like, when it comes to systems, like, it doesn't matter how many times you've maybe done maintenance on something in the military, you still have to follow the same list line by line, and you usually have somebody else there reading it to you and verifying that you followed each step. So there's a reason for that, because you're trying to eliminate any potential missteps, because every single step does matter. So you should replicate that same process in anything you do in your business too. And it will evolve over time. Like, every single day I'm revising my systems and making improvements, maybe cutting out new things or rethinking certain things that I've been doing, just until I get that like perfect recipe for replicating results for my business and ultimately for the clients.
Yeah, good.
So, but yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out, the whole time management thing too, because technology allows us to be more places than once now, which is great. So you got to consider too, if I can only see one person at a time, I'm really, really limited in how many people I can reach too. So you got to take those great ideas you have, the stuff you're sharing with your clients, and make it more accessible and widely available to everybody. And so you can reach as many people as possible.
No, that's great. That's a great piece of advice. Now, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to brag about yourself in modern athletics a little bit. What makes you guys unique, and what's your differentiator?
That's something else I think about on a daily basis too, and it's always improving. So I think the biggest thing is 7 days a week I'm spending trying to be a better coach so that I can get the most for my clients. So to say I care a lot is probably the biggest differentiator there. I think a lot of coaches out there do care, but you're going to come across many professionals who don't put that effort into it, who are there just because it's a job, who aren't thinking outside of those sessions about how they can get more out of themselves and their clients. So every day I'm just pushing myself to be better, learn more, understand things better from both my perspective and as well as my athlete's perspective too. So as far as differentiators go, I don't think there should be any one thing that sets me apart from anybody else. I'm trying to find something that I can share with other coaches, just as they've shared with me, that will allow us to all replicate these great results. Like, nothing that we do will be proprietary. We're trying to achieve the same goal ultimately, hopefully. And there's plenty of success out there for all of us to share in. And so the more that we can all collaborate and make sure that we are constantly pushing things forward for the industry is going to be useful. So, standing out is not something I aim to do. I think the results that people get will speak for themselves. And I think when people show how much I put into each session, the energy I bring to it, the professionalism behind everything we do, the fact that I'm trying to educate them to succeed, not just now, but all long into their future. So, in a roundabout way, this is what I'm saying is, I consider myself an educator, and that's why I pride myself. I'm not there to give people a workout or even just a training program. I'm there to actually teach them enough where they would know what they've learned to be able to teach somebody else so that they can continue to spread it too. So in a sense, employing them, empowering them to take control of their own fitness, but also, spread that and influence other people, be a positive role model for other people as well. So I think making sure people are learning something, understand why we're doing stuff, and are able to make those decisions long after we've separated. Because it seems inevitable that they're not always going to have me by their side. And, whether they move or I move or whatever reason, I need them to feel like every single session they can continue to take with them, that it's not just that hour is over with, I'll never get that back. It's like, I got something from this hour, this training time that is going to carry over for the rest of my life too.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. Very thorough. Now, you mentioned this a little bit, but I just want to give you a chance to be a little more specific. Like, how are you using technology and social media to promote your business or to reach more of your clients?
Just putting the message out there, the things that I share daily with the people that are interacting with me in person. It's sometimes I'll have such a message that I feel so good about. It's like, oh, it's a shame that only one person heard this, or 10 people or 20 people heard this. So I'm using social media more to just get the message out there, hopefully inspire others to, whether it be coaches, inspire them to want to be better, learn something new, or to inspire people to start incorporating the things that I teach into their lives. So social media, it's definitely like a full-time job in itself, it seems. So that's an area I'm trying to juggle and fit more into my schedule for sure. I need to do that. Technology wise though, just, having the software that allows you to quickly or more easily build workouts and send those to clients, allowing people that can train remotely. So what I try to do is utilize, the online remote training stuff, so that the people that only train me once or twice a week, which is most of my clients, they're able to supplement that with workouts that still follow the same methods and philosophies, but doesn't require them to be there. I also like that the technology, when I hand something off to them, they're forced to learn it on their own, and therefore they better retain it. And it can just amplify what we do when we are training together, because now they can take it with them, work out on their convenience, on their schedule when they travel. So, technology has been awesome for that.
Cool. And what would you say is the biggest challenge in running your own business, and what is the biggest reward in running your own business?
Biggest challenge, probably overthinking everything. Yeah, it's I like the challenges that I face in business. Trying to think what the biggest obstacle is. I guess just when you're trying to first build that business up, build that reputation up. Once it starts going, though, it rolls pretty smoothly. But yeah, it's just getting people, when you're brand new, starting out, trying to get the momentum rolling. And then also making sure that people that have been with you a long time still continue to feel like they're getting value out of it, that it doesn't get stale.
Okay.
That can be a challenge too, when you don't want to get too complacent in anything you do. You don't want to get complacent in what you know, for sure. You don't want to keep complacent in the workouts you're giving your clients, the experience you're giving clients. No matter how well you know them, you still got to make sure that every time that they show up, that it's almost like that first day they're a client that you're trying to win over. And the challenges too is kind of what you're talking about when we first started this interview, is combating misinformation. Combating misinformation that's spread by people that even appear to be professionals. You got your YouTube university, you got your Instagram famous, people that are really good at marketing. That's what's plagued fitness since the beginning of time, is people that are really good at marketing and taking your money, but don't actually care about the results you're getting. So going against the grain in terms of what's trendy, what's popular, and trying to teach people that, hey, there's a better way than what you might see being popularized, or a better way than what everyone else is doing. And you got to build a lot of trust before you convince somebody that what's popular is maybe not the best solution for them or people long term. So yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge is educating people and getting them to break away from what the stigmas are and what they already know. And then the secondary challenge I face, and this is one I'm personally trying to deal with more by sharing everything I learned as a professional with other professionals, and that is that there's a lot of everybody out there that's training or doing anything in fitness represents the entire industry. And when one person does something negative, it affects everybody. So when you see a trainer in a gym doing something that either is unprofessional or, inexperienced or dangerous, and that's the stigma that it creates for all of us. When I have someone that comes to me and they've had a trainer before and they had a bad experience, maybe that trainer hurt them, or they didn't get anything out of it, or that trainer wasn't professional, like showing up. I mean, I've heard some of my clients tell me that their trainers would eat like French toast in front of them while they worked out. Things like that, it just really makes us all look bad too. And I know some of the most brilliant people out there, hardest working people and caring people out there are in our field. And they're also the ones that probably don't spend all their time marketing. So therefore you're not going to find them as easily as you would somebody who's got a big brand behind them and spends all their time getting good at taking your money, but not actually delivering results. So yeah.
Well said. Now, what would you talked about the challenges? Now, what would you say is one or two of the biggest rewards that you have managing and running your own business?
Just being in control and know that like you get to develop your systems, that you get to run things the way that you feel is best. That can be a bad thing too. You got to still bounce your ideas off of other people too. If I'm just making decisions because I want to do it this way, I might be overlooking something important that someone else might recognize too. So it's still important that even as running my own business, making my own decisions, that I get input from everybody, both the athletes and other coaches and anyone I can, outsiders, basically, mentors, that sort of stuff. So I think it's all rewarding. I mean, it just depends on who you are. Some people are very happy going in and having everything in place for them, and they show up and they do their job and they do it well, and they don't have to like have any responsibilities outside of just being a great coach. I know that I have that more entrepreneurial mind. I mean, really, no matter who you are as a fitness professional, you're an entrepreneur. Whether you like it or not, you are building your own business, your own brand, even if you work for somebody. So you pretty much have to be an entrepreneur in this industry. But, when you take on the responsibilities of having to pay rent and equipment and all that, there's risks, of course, involved. But the reward is you get to build something that is matching in line with your vision.
That's good. That's good. Now, what do you know now as a business owner that you wish you would have known when you first started out?
Oh gosh, so much. Thousands and thousands of things. I think the main thing is just to recognize that all the knowledge I could possibly want is out there for me already. I don't need to try to figure things out on my own. Yeah. I should take advantage of every single person that's out there, whether a new coach, new fitness professional, someone who's more experienced. They all have something to offer, something that they can teach me. So being more eager and outgoing to get that information or seek out that information, just knowing, like, I don't think I ever felt like I knew a lot, but like there was definitely a period where I thought I was a really good trainer, and I look back at that trainer now, I'm just like, yeah, you were not even close. And so being more humble at first too. I definitely recognize, I mean, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. And that's been awesome for me too, because I just don't feel like I can be smart enough. And it seems like the people that are doing the best, and whether they're an athlete or a coach, they're the ones that just don't feel good enough, not in a self-loathing kind of way, but they're always like, I can learn more, I can do better. There's no end to it. So, and then the other thing is really defining who I am and who I want to target, what my message is. I mean, that takes years, and it's still evolving. It might be another 10 years before I really feel like I've locked it in, but that's an important thing to lock in too, is who you are as a coach. What it is you want to do, fine tuning that. You can call it your niche if you want to, but I mean, that's definitely the challenge. I wish I knew a lot more of that stuff going into it.
No, that's a great answer. And now finally, again, thank you, Dustin, for your time. This has been a great interview. I just want to know, what's next for you in your business? What's next for Modern Athletics in 5-10 years down the road? Yeah,
I'm still trying to well, one thing's for sure is, even when I'm waking up at 4 a.m. being like, why do I do this? It only takes an hour later before I realize oh yeah, because I love it. This is awesome. So I see myself doing this forever and continue on the path of growing and helping become the best coach I can be, so other people can benefit from that. But I'm trying to decide between do I focus my efforts more on working with fitness professionals or people, or both? I mean, because I do enjoy working with helping other trainers, boost the image of our industry and get the most out of their training, teach them all the mistakes that I've made so they don't have to. But I still love coaching too. And long term, I really just want to build Modern Athletics into a global brand, of course. I have very ambitious things. I love it if I had this mecca facility of coaching and best training and all encompassing, where you go in there and it's just all your fitness needs are taken care of in one spot, the kind of spot you never want to leave. So that's like my grand vision there too. And like I say, my training goes, if I didn't make this clear, my training is really little to do with exercise. It actually goes way beyond that. Exercise is just the beginning, but I try to get into actually helping people improve all aspects of their lives too. So it gets into the lifestyle, just who they are as people, how they can apply themselves to do more. Just go through that same transformation that I had, where you realize like anything you want, you can pursue, and that we're rarely actually really living up to our full potential. You know, maybe what we once wanted to become, we've kind of lost our way with. So trying to reconnect people with and make them understand that, like, you know, push the envelope. They can do so much more for themselves and live every day feeling great. So I hope to get to the point where modern athletics has got mass appeal and everybody gets to experience what I experienced, and that's just feeling great and happy about life every single day.
No. All right. That's a good answer. Thank you again. Good luck to you in growing your business and growing modern athletics. And we look forward to hearing from you again down the road.
I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me ramble on for so long.